My name is Brian Scribonia, and on this episode of the Common Sense Financial Podcast, you would be well advised to not put off such an important responsibility to protect your loved ones. Instead, be proactive, take steps to protect your loved ones by creating a custom, comprehensive plan with the help of trained professionals. And once completed, communicate the plan with your partner and family members. Then enjoy the peace of mind that comes along with knowing you have done everything in your power to provide for your loved ones.
Well, hey, everybody, and thank you for listening and joining us today. We hope that this podcast can provide you with some insights to help you grow and get closer to your goals this year. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. That way you'll be notified about new content and you'll be able to listen to Brian tackle a variety of different topics. So you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, pretty much anywhere that podcasts can be found. And all the links to subscribe as well as past episodes are available on the website at brianscribonia.com. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's get started.
Opportunities are still there.
The attempt at passing down wealth from generation to generation.
Consider the outcome, not just popular opinion.
And the whole teaching there is about preparedness and being ready.
There's a difference between what's real and what's true.
You're listening to the Common Sense Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Scribonia. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get into today's topic. One of the most difficult experiences as a financial consultant is watching someone lose their spouse or partner, and then witnessing the aftermath that occurs from not having a well-thought-out estate plan in place. I have seen it, unfortunately, dozens of times when a family is left in disarray, forced to face the emotional difficulties of losing their partner or parent while simultaneously trying to figure out their financial situation. But I've also seen the opposite happen when a family is free to mourn their loved one and figure out how to move forward with their life at their own pace, thanks to proper advanced planning and preparation. I don't think it's any secret that the latter situation has the better outcome for everyone involved. The question is why there are so many people who don't take time to do it. Well, in my experience, planning for death is an emotionally uncomfortable topic that can be easily avoided. After all, no one wants to think about how much time they have left with their people that they love, right? So the propensity is to put it off, make excuses, and take every opportunity simply not to do it. But the process for end-of-life planning is relatively simple in nature, but the details can be complex, and is why I recommend getting professional help. In my 30 years of consulting families, I've learned that people can easily find themselves overwhelmed with the weight of the decisions they must make to ensure their finances are in order. And while many people power through the process of getting their affairs in order, people will sometimes take the do-it-yourself approach and, as a result, often stop short. They may have a will, but they rarely take the rest of the steps necessary in an effort to avoid the legal and logistical challenges of implementing it. And while every situation is different, there are several core aspects of an estate plan that everyone should consider. And in doing so, you can help your family overcome the biggest financial obstacles they'll face after you're gone. The first is related to title and legal work. I'm not an attorney, but I do work closely with them during the estate planning process to help with the coordination of the family wishes for distributing assets and taking care of surviving family members. Often when reviewing a client's existing documentation, we often find botched titles, missing or outdated legal work, and inaccurate documentation. The reason is that many clients have a complete misunderstanding of the role legal work plays within their planning. But it's not their fault. We aren't taught any of this in school, and our parents most likely did not have this figured out for themselves. Many people try to go at it on their own or with the help of one-size-fits-all websites to save money, but unfortunately, errors and shortcuts can end up costing them or their families even more than it would have if they just would have sought out the professional advice to begin with. In other words, you should work closely with an experienced team who can work closely with you to work through the details that lead to a well-drafted estate plan. Another part of a well-designed estate plan is life insurance. This is a big one in my opinion because at a very basic level, when a spouse passes, an infusion of capital is often needed to replace the loss of income. I mean, this is the primary purpose of life insurance when it comes to family planning. This is important because what I find is that many households rely on two incomes and/or two people contributing to the family's ecosystem. Even if one spouse doesn't work outside the home, their contribution to the family must be replaced when they're gone. In this case, there is no income loss necessarily, but household expenses may increase if outside resources are needed to keep up the home, care for the other family members, or fill in other responsibilities. And while life insurance is best purchased, of course, when you're younger and healthier, it's never too late to add a policy to your portfolio. I mean, it could be argued that the older you are and the more health conditions you have, the more you need it. Knowing how much insurance to have or what type to purchase can be a real challenge. Each person's needs are different, and each type of insurance and individual plan has its pros and its cons. However, what you can be sure of is that the simply upping coverage from work or buying a cheap term contract from your property agent isn't necessarily a substitution for having a real plan creating to replace your contribution to your family when you're gone. Again, this underscores the importance of working with a team of professionals who have experience working through these issues and can walk you through your options. Another important but often overlooked aspect to an estate plan is budgets and cash flow. Before any decision can be made about how to use available resources, you have to know how much money your partner will need and where it will come from. Therefore, the first logical step is to understand and map out cash flow. Your cash flow may be funded by employment or a business, or it can be income generated from assets, but it's important to know how much income you are currently working with and how much that will change when you or your loved one passes. Because regardless of its sources, your cash flows into three primary areas: reoccurring obligations, irregular obligations, and of course savings. Once you understand what your spouse and family would need if a death were to occur, you can effectively plan for it. While many people think in terms of weeks or months to be effective in maintaining control of your cash flow, it really is recommended to think in terms of years. Another area relates to debts and investments. Now, many people's first instinct when it comes to allocating resources, especially at death, is to pay off debt, depleting available resources with the goal of reducing payments for their spouse in the short term anyways. This strategy may make some sense in some situations, but it should not be a default action for everyone just to take as their first step. The reason this requires some additional thought is because money makes money. Depending on your family's financial situation, it may be better to use the resources to produce additional income in lieu of paying off certain debts. If you pay off debt, the debt's gone, but so is the money and its ability to compound and grow. In a situation that requires thought and strategy, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all plan for how to approach this, the primary thing to keep in mind is that everything is about cash flow. So any decision about how to use resources should be tested against the impact it will have on the cash flow. For instance, if there is a need to purchase an automobile, the thought may be to use some of the resources to pay in cash to avoid the payment and interest charges of a bank loan, which can both negatively impact cash flow. But there is another way to look at this scenario that could potentially purchase every vehicle you will ever need in the future. Consider the fact that if you spend a lump sum of money to purchase a depreciating asset, you have lost control of that money, never to be used again in the future. I mean, it's gone. However, if you were to redirect that money you would otherwise spend to purchase that vehicle to work on generating an income stream, you can use that stream of income to make loan payments, not just once, but multiple times to purchase multiple vehicles over long periods of time. If you spend the money, you have an automobile that is depreciating, and the next vehicle you need is a repeat of having to reduce resources to make another purchase. Now, if you use the resources to generate an income stream, the bank loan is paid off over time using the income generated from your resources. And when your bank loan is paid off, you still have your money and the income is being generated. It's a rinse, wash, repeat cycle. So in summary, when thinking about your family planning, it would be in yours and your family's best interest to not simply assume things will always be the way they are now and just hope everything works out. There is unfortunately the real possibility that you or a loved one will pass away unexpectedly, and if you procrastinate and delay, you may find yourselves in the unfortunate situation of being unprepared. You would be well advised to not put off such an important responsibility to protect your loved ones. Instead, be proactive. Take steps to protect your loved ones by creating a custom, comprehensive plan with the help of trained professionals. And once completed, communicate the plan with your partner and family members. Then enjoy the peace of mind that comes along with knowing you have done everything in your power to provide for your loved ones. And now, if you want to begin working through this process for your family, you can download my estate planning checklist by following the link in the show notes. That concludes today's podcast. I'm Brian Scribonia. Thank you for listening to the Common Sense Financial Podcast.
Thanks for listening to today's show. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify so that you can receive notifications when we release new episodes. I'm Brian Scribonia, and this is the Common Sense Financial Podcast.
Well, thank you for listening to the Forbes Top 10 rated Common Sense Financial Podcast. Before you go, I want to encourage you to jump over to brianscribonia.com to access the full archive of blogs and podcasts. And if you want to be the first in line to get new content, you can sign up for free on the Brian Scribonia website as well. If you're not following Brian on all the social channels, we'd love to have you join in on the conversation. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, he's there. Lastly, if you've enjoyed listening to today's podcast, or if you have found value in any of our content, help spread the word by sharing our videos, podcasts, and posts wherever you get them. We greatly appreciate it and are glad that you took the time to join us today. Securities offered only by duly registered individuals through Madison Avenue Securities, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through Scribonia Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. Tax services offered only through Scribonia Tax Consulting. Mass does not offer billed banking or tax advice. Scribonia Financial Group, LLC, Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC, Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC, Scribonia Tax Consulting, and billed banking are not affiliated with Mass. Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients and prospective clients where Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Billed banking is a DBA of Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC. Benefits and guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the insurance company, not FDIC-insured. Results may vary. Any descriptions involving life insurance policies and its use as an alternative form of financing or risk management techniques are provided for illustration purposes only, will not apply in all situations, may not be fully indicative of any present or future investments, and may be changed at the discretion of the insurance carrier, general partner, and/or manager, and are not intended to reflect guarantees on securities performance. The term billed banking, private banking alternatives, or specially designed life insurance contracts are not meant to insinuate that the issuer is creating a real bank for its clients or communicating that life insurance companies are the same as traditional banking institutions. This material is educational in nature and should not be deemed as a solicitation of any specific product or service. Billed banking is offered by Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC only and is not offered by Madison Avenue Securities, LLC. Our firm is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by the third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by our firm. References to billed banking, private banking alternatives, or specially designed life insurance contracts are not meant to insinuate that the issuer is creating a real bank for its clients or communicating that life insurance companies are the same as traditional banking institutions. This material is informational in nature and should not be deemed as a solicitation of any specific product or service. Billed banking is not FDIC insured. Billed banking is offered by Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC only, and is not offered by Madison Avenue Securities, LLC, nor Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC.